Thank you. Wow, that was a long bio. I am so excited about this conference and to see so many people interested in this topic. All of you are advocates, and when I was thinking about how to frame this presentation, I was trying to come up with words that characterize a work that I've been trying to do over the last 4 or 5 years. And of all these words, perhaps performance, trying to speak to administrators, leaders, school board members, the people that have the power. There was a question about this in the previous presentation. I think if we can show them the outcomes, the performance, the amazing work on identity and reinforcing all of these wonderful talents and things that our students bring to our classroom. When we show them what this program, dual language immersion, can do for our students and how it can impact performance and make them look better, then all of the other things can support that work: perseverance, positivity, and patience. And how do I move? Oh, here. Okay, there you go. Some of the presentation goals, I mean, when we speak to people in power, we need to know our data, and we need to figure out when we can interject that data, that when we listen to what they're saying and what their concerns are, or what their obstacles that they're presenting are, we just have to figure out, because we know what we're talking about, how to interject that data, be that accidental advocate at any moment. We need to know our districts, know our schools, understand the challenges to implementation, and educate at every opportunity the leadership in these districts and departments. My mom has a saying, "El no viene fácil, hay que buscar el sí." You just have to assume that the no is always going to be there, even if they don't state it. You could just see it by their facial expressions. And you just have to always, with your smile and with your knowledge, I mean, you're always going to be in a position that you're going to know so much more. So when those comments come that really, you know, make you cringe, you just smile and then educate. And you're being educated by what you're hearing from these naysayers. I think this is one of the best things that has happened in the past year. We have a huge advocate right now in the Department of Education. This is a person that has been in our shoes, started speaking no English. He is one of our students. And bilingual, biliterate, bicultural, always a smile, and engaging personality. He's been there, and I think we all, it's going to be a lot easier for us now with this type of leadership. Not going to go over this a lot because this particular group understands all of the things that we're seeing and that have come to light with this pandemic. But I do want to focus on this quote. I am very fortunate to be part of the cohort at the University of Central Florida, the dual language cohort of students. And this is something that I learned from my amazing professors there. We're not just talking about our bilingual, emergent bilingual English language learners. English speaking students in dual language immersion programs need less time to attain grade appropriate levels of competence in English literacy in academic domains than students educated entirely in English, despite the fact that they have less instruction in and through English. This is huge. When you look at all of the grade level reading programs, the fact that 50% of our third graders are not reading at grade level, this is what we need to tell our leaders, that they're going to do much better in English. They're going to be reading at grade level, and they're going to be bilingual. And we can prove it. Little bit about national trends. This is really important to know. You know, a fastest growing ethnic group in schools is Hispanic. I'm concentrated on Hispanic Spanish speaking students because that is the majority of language learners. That is not to the exclusion of all the other languages in our school system. But if we could at least move the needle on the majority of language learners, and we're going to have a lot more resources to work with the other languages that we have. In Florida, 35% of students in our public school system are of Hispanic descent, much higher percentage than nationwide. A couple of years ago, I went into every district data and realized that 66 out of our 67 school districts saw an increase in Hispanic students. And I do want to draw your attention to this ethno-racial composition of Florida's population. And if you look at the child bearing age group from 20 to 44, you can see that already 50% of our population is very diverse, and most of those families have their kids in public schools. One link that I'd like to draw your attention to is the link between poverty and race and ethnicity and academic outcomes. If you're not familiar with the ALICE report, which is an annual study that United Way puts out, and it goes down to not only states, but actual counties. In Florida, ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Challenged, Employed. So these are two-parent households or maybe single-parent households where the income is barely meeting the basic expenses. So even though we talk a lot about the free and reduced lunch and poverty line, we have to realize that in Florida, a majority of our households, most of these households have children in public schools, are really living paycheck to paycheck, which means they're not there to support their kids with homework. They may not have the resources of other people that have more options. So these are the students, and that's just the language learners, but all the students that we're working with. And why is dual language so important? Why am I so committed to bringing these programs? This is a Sarasota data. These children, these 8th graders are now sophomores in high school, and Sarasota has always been an 8 district, one of the best districts in the state. So when you look at the iReady diagnostics, the blue is the baseline English test that they take in August when they enter. And then they're tested again in December and then again right before the FSA. Well, you could see here that these children, the Hispanics, which are 20% of the district, 8th graders are entering high school, 55% of them reading at least one grade level below. Now, they stop counting after 35%. You could see 2 or more grade level below. This means that some of these children have a 3rd or 4th grade level in reading. So how do you believe that these children are doing in high school? They're just not accessing those high level courses. Sometimes they're not even able to play sports because their grades are not there. They don't have transportation. So this is what drives people like me to really try to bring this to light. It's not something that district leaders even know. I mean, when I presented this data to board members in my district, they were not aware of all of this. So we have to be effective advocates. And how do we do that? I believe that we are in the perfect position to educate not just the provider of education, but the consumer of education. This is why, this radio program that I've developed with, at the urging of the owners of the radio stations has become so popular. Radio is one of the best ways to communicate with diverse families. Sometimes it's the only local source of information that they have, and they have it on in the background as they work, so why not? All of you in your districts can call your local Spanish or other radio stations, say, hey, can we have 10 minutes a week or 2 slots to talk to parents directly about things that are going on in our school, how they can help, how they can get involved. You just start that intimate conversation, and it's a lot easier than you think. So this is where perseverance, positivity, patience, especially patience with the school system, with those leaders, that most of whom are monolingual, monocultural, and they're really nice people. They just don't understand how they can connect to these diverse people that we have in our school systems. This is the type of data that we all know, but sometimes we don't have it at the tip of our tongue when we need it. Dual language immersion programs are enrichment for some and equity for all. I mean, this is one of the only instructional models that elevates everybody that's involved. The research and the data is there to convince. I mean, I've sent the 5-pager that Thomas and Collier have. It's an excellent essay. It's very easy, chock full of information. Every time I have a discussion, I just follow up with that, and they may read it, they may not, but at least it's there. We know all the benefits of these programs. Here are just a few of them, and I just sometimes don't understand how, if you know this, how can you not want everybody to at least have an opportunity to be part of this education? There are a lot of challenges to implementation. I find that sometimes I can truly convince and move the needle, but then you have to be very careful, because you have to make sure that, as we all know, this program needs to be implemented with fidelity. My colleagues and professors and Yvonne Cadis, who is in this call, remind me that there's a lot of problems right now. I mean, with the lack of resources, the lack of funding, the distractions with everything else that's going on. Some of our programs are suffering, and districts are beginning to cut corners. Teachers don't have what they need. Perhaps our organization and others can actually be a support system to make sure that our principals are supportive of the program, that we have authentic resources, that we encourage bilingual teachers that are already in our systems to kind of start finding out about this. Huge source of potential power is our ESOL community. I find a lot of times when I talk to ESOL professionals, they're not aware of our dual language programs. They're not aware that it is supported by the FLDOE, that it is one of 6 ESOL models. People just don't know these things. Everybody's so busy working to try to get these kids ahead that they just don't realize that there's this whole other world of solutions and models that could be implemented if we just had a little bit more information. One thing that, in speaking with some of the leaders of dual language programs like Idalina, who's also on this call, sometimes when you start strands, those kids are starting to do much better than the other monolingual kids, and there's a little bit of rivalry. Those sometimes our dual language teachers in strands are feeling a little isolated or are not included in the climate of the school. So we need to keep that in mind and see how we can integrate these models in our schools as they're being implemented. And this is Dr. Cody's amazing group and Dr. Such at UF. They actually a few years ago put together a website as a resource so that people would know where our programs are in Florida. I am very encouraged with the education and the information that we've been able to disseminate. And it seems like it's not something that people don't know. At least people have heard of it. But we still only have about 130 dual language programs in Florida, and we have over 4,000 schools. So there's a lot of work to be done. I commend some of these districts for joining us in this advocacy, but we have to expand it within these districts, and we also have to really try to bring some of these other districts along. This is one of my favorite slides ever. It is courtesy of Idalina Horta at Broward. This is what we need to show our leaders, our school board members, our principals. This is how our kids are doing in dual language programs when it's run the way it's supposed to. You could see that in every category and at every grade level, our bilingual, emergent bilinguals are doing much better in the state FSA than the monolingual students in the same schools. I questioned the 7th grade a little bit because, well, what about here? What happened here? Well, very good explanation there. They started, these children in 7th grade started the program in 6th grade. So here you have, you know, a majority of these students were Spanish-speaking students that entered the school system without knowing any English. So you could see that even with that characteristic, they're doing amazingly well for only having been in the dual language program for 2 years. So kudos to Broward for leading the way here. I can't not mention the dual language graduate certificate of the University of Central Florida. This is my 2nd semester there. I have a cohort of 25 incredible teachers that are going through this. I mean, it has been an amazing experience. The professors are great. The classes are very well organized. There's no busy work. The books, and Edwidge is one of the authors of the books that we had to read and study. Already about 75 teachers have gone through this program. We have one more cohort next year. And there's going to be 100 very well-trained and educated practitioners. Hopefully we can continue it. These are all the schools that are represented in this program. When we speak about educating not just the provider of education, our school systems, but also the consumer, I need to highlight the work of a district that is really willing to connect with their Hispanic population, which is now 35%. This is Manatee School District. And at the beginning of the pandemic in July, I got a call from the leadership there saying, how do we connect with our Hispanic families? Even our employees are getting sick and we're not even open. So immediately we just, you know, put together a group of Hispanic teachers and community leaders, and we just said, you need to advertise. Well, we don't advertise. We're a school district. We're not going to pay for advertising. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't just ask radio stations to give you free time. They have a business too. So we went to the Manatee Community Foundation, got a grant, and we started a full-blown campaign of public service announcements, interviews with Spanish-speaking teachers, and started just basic health issues, letting people know what they needed to do to protect themselves, and a whole campaign about how we were going to get those kids back into school August 17th. And the most incredible thing we did was to have a really easy to remember number, 909-1999. People have memorized this number. Now they can call, and there's Jenny Rodriguez. She was featured in the newspaper. They got over 2,000 calls in Spanish. And now they're realizing that even some of their Spanish-speaking employees are calling to ask basic questions about HR. Parents were calling just to see if their kids passed the year prior. They didn't know that there was like a focus site where they could go and see what their kids were doing. So this is giving an enormous amount of data to the district to just have a number where Spanish-speaking people can call and get an answer. So, I mean, easy to do, inexpensive, other than the time you have somebody man the line. Every district should have this. Another thing we did is place full-page ads in the most popular magazine with all of the instructions of how people, how students could come back to school and what they needed to do. That was last year. This year, we're actually now explaining to people what the changing guidelines of COVID are, what they need to do if their kid feels sick. It's been enormously successful and informative for both, not just the community, but the school district. to have this outreach. And then on the other side, the consumer of education, this is the show that was a pandemic response. It started just a series of interviews that the radio station owners just interviewed me over the phone, and I didn't even realize it was live. They said, could we do an interview? I just assumed it was recorded. And then when people started calling and reaching out, I honestly didn't even remember what I had said. They didn't have a recording. But from that, they got such a huge response that they actually asked if we could do a half-hour show, and that's what we're doing. And that a lot of the people here, like Dr. Cody was interviewed, and Dr. Ceballos was interviewed, and we have developed very specific topics, all in Spanish, where the parents and families can actually just get a couple of nuggets, that we always want to try to connect with something that they may be experiencing. How can they support their kids at home and in schools, even if they don't speak the language? A lot of it is educating them as to, the rights that they have, and all of the resources that the schools have, and that it doesn't matter if that grumpy receptionist gives you, a bad attitude. You need to come back because somebody in the school is going to be able to talk to you and to answer your questions. And one thing that I have discovered in working directly as a receptionist all summer in a Title I school is that sometimes, our teachers are amazing, and they are trained in cultural responsive teaching and connecting with parents, but the parents come in and they're met with a receptionist or a horrific registrar that is just so demeaning and condescending that the teachers don't even know that these parents that are really willing to get involved were turned down a couple of times, and they're not even trying. So we have to be very careful when we think that parents are not engaged, because a lot of times they just need a phone call, or they just need to be, just to be involved by us. So here is our wonderful school. It's taken a long time to get here, a lot of obstacles, but finally we're opening. We're opening in August. It is one thing that has surprised me is that we just started advertising for teachers a couple of weeks ago, just on Facebook, and we have gotten so many incredible applicants from all over the country that want to be in Florida. So you cannot tell me, districts, that there's no interest in having teachers be in Florida. I know there's a teacher shortage, but if little old me, not even knowing how to use social media, can place a couple of posts, and as soon as somebody asks a question, you answer and you engage, I think we can get a lot of people to come here, and help us in this fight. Maybe we need to, train these amazing HR departments and districts as to how to engage with people, how to actually answer somebody when they send an email or reply or call with a question. And I think there's a lot of talent out there that we can engage. And if I can do it, I mean, somebody with a doctorate in HR, I'm sure can do it too. Anyway, that's what I have, and I really encourage everybody to apply for membership and to join us in this fight, because every idea, every voice. I mean, we need everybody here and all of your friends to help us, and this is for our students. Our work is so important. I mean, in 25 years, the kids that we're touching today are going to be our future leaders, and hopefully they'll all be bilingual and biliterate and bicultural. Thank you.
That's right. Wow, very well said, Geri. I didn't even feel the time go by because I was so intent on all of the good pieces that you had.